So this is a quick walkthrough of how we build our website using Jekyll. So this is our website right now, prolabprints.com. This is just a static HTML website. So you can see it's fully responsive. The menu collapses. The widths all sort of just conform to whatever the width is of the screen. And it basically looks good at any monitor resolution, at any width. So this is built using Jekyll. This is the Jekyll RB website. I did this on a Windows PC. Jekyll works on Macs and Windows. Looks like it seems to work better on a Mac than a PC. I installed it using the portable Jekyll that I found here. So Jekyll requires Ruby and a bunch of other stuff that trying to install them all onto Windows by themselves can be a hassle. So this guy had basically something you could download, and it had all the parts you needed. You just put it on your hard drive and you can get Jekyll to launch without doing a whole lot of work. This is where I bought a theme called Minify from Wrap Bootstrap. It was 17 bucks. You can tell my website doesn't necessarily look just like this, but I stole the footer and the header and then just modified them to look the way I wanted them to look. Let's see, some other things we use. The S3 website, I use this to publish the website to Amazon's S3. And then I also use a rake task to compress the files before I publish them to the S3. So everything is compressed and reduced as small as possible. So now let's take a look at how Jekyll works. And I used Sublime Text 3 as my editor. So here is my web folder. You can see I have a bunch of different stuff in the folder. And what Jekyll is doing is it's taking all of my HTML files through here, and it's generating a website in this site folder. So there's sort of a site within the site. All these other folders outside of the site folder are just supporting stuff, which is what Jekyll is sucking in, and then it's spitting out the site. So every time I save a file, Jekyll automatically re-renders the whole site and wipes out the site folder and recreates the entire thing. At least that's my understanding of what's going on, and it seems to be doing that. And so now let's take a look at why I really like Jekyll. So let's see here. I don't need to look at the error page. Let's look at the index page. So one of the cool things about Jekyll, and probably my favorite thing about it, is the concept of includes. So up here you can see I have an includes folder. Inside of that I have breadcrumb HTML, footer HTML, and header HTML. These are basically things that I can reuse throughout the website, but I don't have to type out the whole thing on every page. I just include the header, and I include the footer, and I include the breadcrumb. And you can see that in my index file. And you can see that in my index file, though it's not completely obvious. So Jekyll supports this front matter up here at the top of every page. There's 3 dashes at the beginning, 3 dashes at the end, and then Jekyll knows to sort of work with these things. The first one is layout, and I'm using the default layout. This is what allows you to sort of use the includes and sort of change the look of pages if you need to for different parts of your website. I don't do that. Everything on my website is using the default layout. So if you go over here to the layouts, you can see my default HTML. Automatically, every single page is like that. It includes the header at the top, and then the content is what's actually in that HTML file, and then the footer. And so Jekyll takes the header, takes the footer, puts the content in the middle, and then it saves a new HTML file for every page that I want it to do that for. This post HTML is just part of the default part of Jekyll when you install Jekyll. I'm not using that at the moment because I don't have a blog or anything like that. So if we go back to the index page, I'll go over the rest of the front matter. Title, self-explanatory, description. This is just sort of metadata for the page. And then Jekyll is going to use that. You'll see this, the title and the description are in my header file when we get to that. And then I have a couple other things here, active and exclude. Those are sort of variables that I use in different places so I know whether or not to use this page or not use this page as Jekyll is generating the new site. So if you go, so this is the home page for the website. Now to see the rest of the page, you can see down here, this is the content part right here. It's not the header, it's not the footer. So when you look at the index file, you'll notice there's no main navigation, there's no header information, there's also no footer down at the bottom. It's just everything in between. So you can see, let's see, if you read through this, there's my main wall art image. That's this image right here. Then you can see my order online button, view all services and products button. Those are those two buttons there. Then there should be an H1, then there's a P, and then there's a couple of things down here. And there you'll see that there you can actually see the code for these images down here at the bottom. This section right here, I have it being generated automatically from a data file for my products. And that way it just saves me from typing in the same code, and it also makes it easy for me to switch out the stuff if I want to. And let's see, so that's a lot to go over. First we'll go look at the header file. This is the beginning, the top part of the HTML file. I don't have to include this on every single page. I just have to tell Jekyll to include the header by using the default layout, which puts the header, then the content, and then the footer. So back to the header. Not a whole lot going on in here. Anytime you see these double brackets, it's pulling some sort of variable. So there it's pulling page URL and sticking it in the canonical link in the meta in the head to just sort of give Google a little heads up that this is the main page for that content. There's also a little copyright thing, site name, pulling the site name from, I believe that's pulling the site name from this config file. Name right there, prolabprints.com from Xphotolab Inc. Let's see. Then down here you can see I have a page called Gallery that I'm not currently using. I'm just sort of playing around with it. That page requires an extra style sheet, so I have a little wildcard thing going on here that says if this page is Gallery, then go ahead and include this style sheet. So it's including whatever is in between the if and then the end if, which is some JavaScript and some CSS. I'm also sort of doing the same thing for the title. The title in the head of each page is saying if page.title, basically if that exists, then insert the page title there, else just insert prolabprints.com. That probably shouldn't even be there, but it's just sort of a catch-all in case I accidentally forget to do that. I don't want a page to not have a title. Then you can just see there's some basics. This is our Google Analytics thing. And then you get down into the main part of the header. This is in the body, and this is the main navigation up here is all included in this section of the header. I don't have to include this on every page, which makes it cool that if I need to change this link from shipping info, maybe I just wanted to say shipping, I don't have to do that on every single page. I just do that in the header once, and then it gets Jekyll, when it generates the pages, takes it from the header file and sticks it into every single page individually. There's also a little bit of if page.active. This is to make it so that the CSS changes based on where I'm rolling over the mouse. Since this site is all just HTML, it needs to have a little helper in here, and this is what Jekyll is doing. It's taking the liquid tag, and for on every single one of them saying if page.url equals services, then change the class to active. If it's not, then just have it be the non-active class. Let's see. So it's basically the same thing going on for the footer. The footer is everything down here that's sort of in the darker colored area. That's my footer. That's all of this information. Same thing, Jekyll sucking in the footer every time it renders each page. Every time it generates each HTML page, is sticking the footer in, and I don't have to have this on every single page. I just tell Jekyll to include it. And that makes it easy if you need to update a link or something. It's no problem. I don't really have anything too interesting going on in here. I've played with some other little scripts. You can see I have them commented out right now. I have the copyright down at the bottom, 2014. I have that being generated from the site time date, and then the site names, pulling that from this same config file. And then let's see, if I go over to this services page, this is actually a pretty cool page. This has a list of all of our services, has sort of a larger image and then a little bit of text down below it. If you look at the HTML for this whole page, there's hardly anything here. Look how short the page is. And that's because I'm using a data file that has all of my products in it. And again, this is just to save me the effort of having to code all of this. So if you look at what one block of one service is over here. You can see it starts right here. This is a little bit of liquid code here for products in site.data.products, which is this YAML file here. It's saying make a div. Here's a link to the product URL, which is listed here. So there's only a handful of things for each product: a title, an icon, which is the file for the image, a URL to the page, whether or not it's featured, I think that's what's sticking it on the home page, and then a description that goes down below it. So when you go back to this page, you can just see all these things: product URL, product title, to put in the title right there inside. Let's see, where did the title go again? That product title right there was really the alt for the image. Let's see, yeah, here's the product title again. That's the H2 right there. Products.description, that's the description there, and then N4. So it just loops through everything that's in this file and makes a new div for that. I don't have to do anything. So when I need to go add in a new product, I don't go to the services page. I go to the data file for products, and I just add in these 4 things, and it'll automatically show up here. And then down at the bottom, there were certain things that we do in store only. I didn't want those to be larger icons, so I just have these hard-coded down at the bottom. That's what this section is down here. So let's say we want to add this film processing and printing that I have hard-coded at the bottom. Let's say we want to add it as a normal full product up here. Let's go back to the products YAML file. I already sort of have it here. I just have it commented out. I'll uncomment it. This is in Sublime Text Control and / Now it's commented, now it's uncommented. And let's see. The other thing I need to do is right now I don't have Jekyll running. So all Jekyll is something in the background sort of waiting for you to save a file, and then it runs through and regenerates everything. Right now I don't have it running, so on my local host I don't have anything here. To get it running, I just go to the folder here in Sublime. I'll go up and say open/run. Now I'm in a command prompt where I need to be. So to be able to get Jekyll to start, you need to be in a command window in that folder. So now I'm in that folder. You can see this is where I have that folder stored on my J drive. And I'll type in Jekyll serve --w. That means watch for changes and regenerate the site every time there's a change. So I should be able to reload and see it by now. Yep, there it is. So this is running localhost. This is not running out on the internet. Let's see, where are we over here? Film developing. I don't think I saved this yet. Nope. We'll press Control-C to save it. Go over to our services page. And boom, there we have film developing. Looks like my description's not long enough. I need to type in a little bit more longer description. There, now it lines up with the one next to it. So that's all super easy to do. All I did was add in 4 lines, and now I have a new product on here. And if I click on here, it should take me to the page. And now this is all locally. So to get it out on the internet, so we'll refresh here. Currently there is no film processing icon here. I'm going to open up another command window. And this time, so I have the website. So I have the website hosted through Amazon's S3. It's just, since everything is strictly HTML files, I don't need a web server. I can just use Amazon's simple storage solution. I think that's what the S3 stands for. And to get it there, that's where I use this S3 website. But rather than use it directly, I run this rake task, which minifies all the files. So every time Jekyll regenerates the website, it's not compressing or minifying the HTML or the CSS or anything. It's just the raw HTML. So you can compress it and make Google happier and make your page speed faster. So I have this rake task. And here's probably where I should say, I probably should have said this earlier, I am by no means very knowledgeable at all of Ruby. I only know what I need to know to get things to work. So it took me a long time to get this rake file reduce thing to work. I didn't really understand what a rake is, but it's something once I get it going, it works every time. I don't need to understand it. It's doing what I want it to do. I got this from this guy, I believe. Took a little bit of getting it to work. I think a lot of the Ruby stuff is really meant for people using Macs, not PCs. So there were things that this relies on that didn't work on my PC that I edited. I think I got lucky and figured out a couple of paths were wrong, and I edited them, and now they work. But all this is doing is I run this from the command line. I tell it to run this task by saying, I need to call it by saying rake and then minify. Rake is the command, minify is the name of the task to do. And now it's going to go through that site folder and it's going to minimize everything in there and compress it. And then at the end of that, it's going to get to this S3 website push, and it's going to push the website out to Amazon's S3. Should just take a few seconds to go through all these, and then it'll be out on the internet. So now you can see it's done compressing, and it's pushing changes out to the S3. And that's what's going to be live on the internet as soon as this says it's done. All right, so now it says it's done. If I go out to our live website, you can see right now there's no film processing icon right there. If I refresh, there it is. So now let's say I just want to create a new web page on my website. I'm going to go up here and click New File, and we'll just call it test.html. And you can see it, put it down there. And now this is a Sublime text thing. I made a little snippet that all I have to do is type in new PLP, press tab, and it automatically creates this stuff up here for me to type in. I have tab marks at the different things that I need to fill in, and then it should end up right there in front of the P. So if I go back up here, we'll just call this test, description test. Again, the title and description, that's just in the metadata at the top of the HTML. Parent, I don't need. Parent URL, I don't need. That's part of my breadcrumb. And then down here, I'll just say hi. No, we'll say hello world. And now when I press Control S to save, if I go back to localhost, not the internet, I should be able to bring it up. And that didn't work because I didn't have the permalink. So this is just telling Jekyll how you want the URLs to be, and I want them all to be in the form of just the directory. You'll notice there's no HTML at the end. Saved. And now you can see I've got my little hello world there. It's got the header and the footer. It doesn't have anything else because I didn't put anything else in there. So some other stuff that I did on there is under the help. Have these little tabs, and I sort of have the frequently asked questions in these expanding panels. And the HTML around the panel is actually kind of complicated, so I did the same thing as I did on the products. Is I made a data file, and this way I can just have a title and body. This is the title, this is the body, and then it needs a sequence number. And then if you go find this page, which is help, it should be another relatively simple page for how much information is on there. I had to hard code the first one, I believe. Does Rose accept TIFF for PSD files? Yep. So this one is hard coded in there. From this on down, it's in this section, and it's just pulling for each one of these things in Rose queue. It's creating a new one of these expandable panels. And that's much easier. This is so much easier to see and read and to type in than it is to actually create in HTML. It's pretty complicated HTML, too many divs and different things just makes it hard to do. It's just so much easier to do it with data file. So then this part over here is the videos tab. and that part's just hard-coded because it's pretty simple. Let's see, there seemed like there was something else I was going to show. Let's see, so there was one other thing on our error page. I sort of did the same thing. I have the error page. Let's see, so if we just mess up a URL, you get the error page. The error page also lists every page on the website. It lists the title and then the description. This also makes a handy way to make sure you filled in the title and the description on every single page. And that's created by using some liquid stuff. So it's just saying for page in site pages, if page.exclude equals true, which you can see up here on the error page, I have exclude equals true. It's just an example of how I was using that. That excludes the error page from this list of pages you might want to get to if you found the error page, because that doesn't really make any sense, so you'd want to see it. And then you can see the very first one, the prolabprints.com homepage. I just have that as the very first list item up here, sort of hard-coded. Everything else from this on down is all just generated by the liquid if. So then there's one other thing. I have a breadcrumb on every page, this part right here, where I can click that link there. If I go into the services page, you can see this expands. Now I can click back to the services from the breadcrumb. That's what this include for breadcrumb is doing. And then you'll see I'm including this part on all the pages except for the home page. So if I go to the help page, you should be able to see where I have the include. Yeah, it's right there. Include breadcrumbs, just the first thing in the content part after the front matter. And then if you go back to the breadcrumb, so it's just some if stuff to see if it's the right page. And that sort of controls whether or not there's a link. Since this is the page you're on, there is no link. On the services page, there is a parent URL, and that's what this part is saying. If there is a parent URL, then stick this part in there. One other cool thing about the S3 website plugin that I'm using to publish it is that it supports redirects. So we switched from a CMS called .NET Nuke, which was total overkill for what we're doing. This is so much simpler and faster. So I had all these URLs with .aspx. I can load them in here, and then they automatically redirect. So you can see, let's see, we'll copy this support. This page does not exist, but it redirected to help because I have the redirect over here saying go to /help/. So that's about it. I know it's a short video for how complicated some of this stuff is, but it's more just showing what you can do, not necessarily how to do it. It's a little too complicated in a quick video like this to go over how to do all of it. Hopefully this will be helpful to somebody.